Countries considered as electoral democracies by the American organization Freedom House, and there are some small differences between 2012 and 2022. One of the first I noticed is that Thailand, for some reason, got downgraded. I am not exactly sure why, but some places got upgraded. Nepal and Bhutan were not included 10 years ago. Some places like just kind of swapped. 2012, Turkey was included, and then they weren't included anymore in 2022, but Georgia was. I think that's Georgia. This resolution is really bad. The continent of Africa had a lot more blue back in 2012 versus now in 2022. Also, I believe Bosnia is the only European country that isn't included anymore. Well, the Vatican was never included though. Oh, and Madagascar has also made the list in 2022. They weren't there before back in the day. Feels like overall though, this map makes you just feel pain. You'd think after 10 years there'd be more. Countries with an extensive right to roam. I didn't even know what right to roam was. Basically, the general public's right to access certain public or privately owned land, lakes, or rivers. This is specifically for recreation or exercise. And I'm really surprised that it's just these countries. Why out of all of the United Kingdom it's just Scotland that allows this? Sometimes this is referred to as right of public access to the wilderness. Pretty much all of Central Europe allows this. Switzerland, Germany, Austria. Every single Nordic country, as well as all of the Baltics, and then Belarus? Didn't expect that from there. So this really seems like a northern thing, like none of the southern Europeans are doing this. Now some countries do have the right of way, which is a little bit different. I guess the difference here is that you just really can't camp. Like you gotta keep walking. This is all so confusing. A map of a man considered the most traveled before the invention of the steam engine. So this was all done in the 14th century. It was kind of hard to get around back then. So his first big journey began in, I think, modern day Morocco, and then he made his way all throughout northern Africa, visited a little bit of Egypt, and then he did a lot of loops once he got to the Arabian Peninsula, Iran, all the way up to Turkey. His next big expedition started in Turkey, and then he went up through the Black Sea, explored a little bit of Constantinople at the time, and then went all through modern Russia. Then this is when things get crazy. This is still the same route. He goes all the way down to India, then he gets to the Indian Ocean, does a whole bunch of loops there, I don't even know why. Goes up to, I think, Bangladesh, doubles back around, visits Singapore, goes to modern day Vietnam, China, possibly goes all the way up to Beijing. The dashed lines represent a path that he might have followed, we're not exactly sure. This purple route is insane, but keep in mind, it took him 14 years to do it. That was actually his third route. I was confused by the layout. This is his second route, the green one. Okay, so he didn't start with the most insane thing ever. I mean, the red one was a pretty big one, and then he did 2 years later this green one where he explored more of like the Red Sea, the Persian Gulf, dipped down all the way to Kilwa in Africa, and then I guess that's what prepared him to do this insane journey. 3 years later, he did his final route starting, I think, in Granada, somewhere in Spain, and he just explored the Sahara Desert, which I'm assuming it was probably a lot less eventful. He literally probably saw nothing but this for the next 4 years. I can understand why that was his final journey because, yeah, he was done after this. Took him 28 years to go to all these places, but this is incredible. Looks like he was only 21 when he started his first journey, and he stopped around his 50s. This is actually the perfect map to follow up with. This is the Ottoman Empire in the 14th century, or at least the beginning. This is the rise and fall of the Ottoman Empire. So they weren't really doing a whole lot when he was out there journeying. This is the Ottoman Empire at 1566, 1639. I think we're getting near their height pretty soon here. Oh, actually, that is their height. They were way up in there. I mean, they were going after Austria at the time. And now we're only going to see the slow collapse of the Ottoman Empire, and it is very slow. Basically, for the last like 300 years. I mean, they were able to keep a lot of it, but they were slowly crumbling, and it's going to get worse and worse up until we get into World War I. They actually had very deep, held on to the like territory in Africa. They were losing this stuff first, and then the British took away their African stuff, and boom, it's World War I time, so it's time to disappear. Boom, then they're Turkey. Oh, that's right, 1920 they were briefly, yeah, there were some weird borders there for a second. It's crazy how small they started, and just like 100 years later, they already made huge progress. Actually, no, 200 years later, they made huge progress. Look how far they stretched into Europe, though. I mean, they were really getting close to modern-day Poland, and they just kind of held onto the Balkans for several centuries. Here's the same thing, except with Poland. Here's the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. This is going to be, I'm telling you right now, the top, maybe saddest gifts of all time. Boom, already in 1655, kind of a big mess that happens, but it's okay, they're gonna make a comeback. Also, keep in mind, look at how great Sweden was. They were really big and powerful there for a second till the Northern War. So slowly, Poland-Lithuanian Commonwealth is gonna kind of go back and crumble a little bit. They're going to start to get chopped up into pieces. Here comes Prussia and Germany. We have Russia and Austria slowly eating away. Wasn't looking good in 1793, and then they completely didn't even exist for like 100 years. We do have the Duchy of Warsaw, that's right. So there was like small things going on. They got eaten again So it's not like they disappeared completely, which is something that I always forget about. There was a time where like they were kind of doing something. Now we have to wait till after World War I. Boom. So 1917, during the whole German invasion with the Ukrainian People's Republic. And then finally, Poland is back. They were weird in 1919, but then they beat the Soviet Union, which a lot of people don't talk about, just to get that other big chunk back. Also, what is this? Republic of Central Lithuania. That's interesting. They lose things to Czechoslovakia. They gained and they lost some stuff. This is 1921, though. This is even before Mustache Man came around. Oh, so there was still territorial changes happening. Boom, there it is, 1933. So scary things are about to start happening, and Poland is going to disappear for a second, or I don't even know how many times, 3 times. Czechoslovakia is now disappearing, and there goes Poland. This is an insane gift. This really is crazy to watch because there's a lot of minor details that I didn't even realize. And again, there are exchanges of territories happening now with the USSR instead of Czechoslovakia. Boom, USSR collapses and all these new neighbors are now there, but Poland is going to, for the most part, remain the same now. Will you receive food as a guest at someone's house in Europe? In the dark red, we have countries that are very unlikely to give you food. Pretty much all the northern countries, which I wonder why. Also, Germany is divided in half again. It's not the sides that we would normally expect to see. Seems just to be like a part of Nordic culture not to give off any food. And then on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, we have in the dark blue the countries that will always offer you food. Well, Spain and northern Italy are a little bit divided, but mostly just anything along the Mediterranean. Interesting that like all this food tends to be really good too. I wonder if that has anything to do with it. Pink countries are unlikely to give you food, so southern Germany, England, depends on the region, in France. Light blue is usually yes. The one outlier in Northern Europe seems to be Scotland, Ireland, and Northern Ireland. Also, look at all these light blue countries over here. If you visualize this map as just 2 colors instead of 4, pretty interesting. I wonder what's going on here culturally. Now I really want to just go try this out. I guess if I think about it, if I had a guest in my house, I would also offer you food. That food would probably just be like me ordering a pizza though. Where foreigners can own land in Mexico. So there seems to be a theme here. Anything that's a coastline, you are not allowed to own land unless you are Mexican. But also along the borders with the US, which I'm wondering if that has something to do with some historical thing. But also Guatemala and Belize are included in Central America too. But you can own land in the center parts of the country and even like along the peninsula, I guess. I don't know how they do that. Some parts of the Yucatan Peninsula are cut off, but you can still go in there. This is according to the Constitution of Mexico, and I guess sometimes you can still lease land in the red areas. You can maybe try to lease it for like 99 years and then you can get away with it like that. Try to zoom in on some of these islands. None of these islands are included either. How far you can drive in London within 1 hour. So obviously in the middle of the night, you can drive pretty far away. And as we head into like rush hour, can only like 1 hour will only get you into like this small circle here, 15 miles. But if you wait to like travel at midnight, you can almost go 45 miles. 3 a.m. is the best time to escape London if there's like a, I don't know, zombie invasion. The most popular password in Europe according to NordPass. So if you know anyone in the red countries, definitely try to get their email and just type in 123456. It's even easier if they're Danish though. The Danes get pretty lazy. They just go 12345. They don't want to put the 6th number. Then there's Ukraine, who can't be bothered with numbers, or maybe they don't have numbers on keyboards. I don't really know. They just do the QWERTY one, QWE. They all are next to each other. We don't exactly know what type of passwords Iceland, Belarus, and a lot of the Balkans are using, but one day we'll figure it out. How is there not ASDF? Kind of terrifies me that still in 2022 there are people that use these passwords. Just stop doing it. Don't do it. I mean, even no data is better than these other 3. Price stability brought to you by Costco. If you go to a Costco, a hot dog is going to be $1.50, still as it was back when like I was going to high school too. But if it was adjusted for inflation, technically the price should be right now over $4. Price of the hot dog combo at Costco if it was indexed on inflation, and it would have really jumped as of recently. There's like an interesting jump and then decline in 2009, but then it would have just kept on pace, slowly rising up. Wasn't this a big deal for the Costco CEO? Don't mess with the price of the hot dogs. Oh boy, age distribution of US population versus Congress members. Obviously, US population is going to be pretty much the same all the way around until you get to the older brackets. So you'd think it'd be kind of the same, not exactly though. I mean, I don't know if we should be electing 9-year-old Congress people. Well, I mean, maybe that'd be kind of fun. In order to be a member of the House though, you have to be at least 25 years old, and I guess the Senate you have to be 30. But the biggest age bracket is 60 to 69, and it's even crazier in the Senate. 40% of senators are in their 60s. It's even crazier to me that less than 10% are under the age of 50. Also, these 80-year-old senators, that's crazy. 7% are 80. I mean, just knowing the requirements of age it was obviously this was going to be a pretty messed up chart no matter what. I mean, that's just what it had to look like. Could have used this chart for like literally my entire life. That's how weird our system is. So 1/16 of a cup is equal to 1 tablespoon? I didn't know that. Or 3 teaspoons. So 3 teaspoons is 1 tablespoon. 1/8 of a cup is 2 tablespoons. And this I kind of already knew. 2 cups equals a pint, 4 cups equals a quart. For some reason, this is the one thing that I retained. Why do they teach you this at such a young age? I remember learning about this in elementary school, and then we never covered it again. They should have known that I wasn't going to cook a day in my life until I was like 30. Now is a good time to learn the difference between coffee and tea. So coffee uses the bean of a plant versus the leaf. There's obviously going to be way more caffeine in coffee than there is tea, but it depends. Some people throw I shouldn't have said that. I'm not going to say that. A ton of sugar in their tea. The types of consumption, there's instant coffee, there's decaf, there's espresso. Versus tea, which there's like white, green, yellow. You can of course add milk and sugar to tea, which is the same. You can only add those 2 things as coffee. You can't throw ginger. I'm sure you could throw some ginger in there. I forgot how old of a tradition tea is. Like that goes way back. We didn't start doing this like until 1,000 years ago. Coffee originated from Ethiopia and Yemen versus possibly China, India, or northern Myanmar. The battle still wages on. This is probably the reason World War III breaks out. Although the tea have pretty big alliances, just Russia, China, India. That's scary. Of course, there's some countries that are on the border, a lot of Eastern Europe. I didn't realize that there are places in South America that coffee was starting to lose. Chile and Bolivia, like a little bit of tea. As of when? When did that start happening? Of course, Italy, Spain, and the USA, big coffee consumers, and Brazil as well. Australia likes tea more? I guess this shouldn't be as surprising as I'm saying it is, just because like former British colonies. I get it, but I never connected Australians and tea. I think the tea countries probably would win the war. Personally lean towards coffee, so I'll be enslaved. And big thanks to, by saying this, I agree to be a sussy bucka LuxembourgLover, Drew's Argentinian grandpa, Alex Whitley is Mega Chad, Alfonso M6,
aPhatNarwhal,
Angel Basono, Barnsky W,
bringbackpolandball,
XD,
Jakov
Majestic
Bruney,
Unicorn,
Marco Hindera,
Max Cooper,
Mimo
ortin
Shaky,
5610,
Philipp RF,
Robert E,
RyeThePie,
the Mexican 760,
Why am I doing this?
William the Conqueror.
Thank you.